Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. First story we should talk about is that Putin is saying he's going to deploy nuclear weapons to Belarus. Here's the video clip of Putin making the announcement. I'll put it in a pinned comment down below if you want to check it out. But I argue this changes nothing. There were already nuclear weapons on the territory of Belarus during the Cold War, and that didn't help Moscow win that war. Likewise today, if Russia transfers nuclear weapons to Belarus, in no way is it going to help them win their war in Ukraine. And if in general you're concerned about the use of nuclear weapons anywhere in the world, I highly recommend you watch this video I made 3 months ago, Why Russia Will Not Use Nuclear Weapons in Ukraine. I'm a former nuclear and missile operations officer with the United States Air Force. Here on this channel, I'm going to keep making the argument that Putin has nothing to gain and a lot more to lose if he chooses to use a nuclear weapon, which is why we've gone 13 months without Russia using a nuclear weapon in this conflict. So check out this video. Once again, I don't think we're there yet. If we do, if the situation on the ground changes, I'll let you guys know. If I think there is a chance that Russia could go nuclear, I'll make a video about it. I'll let you guys know. And the Pentagon also put out a statement this week. There's no indication that Russia plans to use nuclear weapons because there's nothing to gain by using them. And I will say for the Pentagon and the United States military, if they had credible intelligence that Putin or the Russian military was about to or planning to use nuclear weapons, then they would raise their alert status. And if the Department of Defense raised their alert status in any way, the entire world is going to know about it. It's going to get leaked to the press. This is going to be all over social media. So I want to comfort you by letting you know we're not there. We're nowhere near there yet. So why does Russia continuously talk about their nuclear weapons? And it's because their military is currently getting destroyed by Ukraine. Half of Putin's army is dead or out of action. With over 660,000 killed or wounded, the disintegrated Russian military has just hit a new and unenviable milestone. It's officially combat ineffective. This is why the Russians can't take the city of Bakhmut. So yes, these are Ukrainian numbers, these are Ukrainian estimates, but more or less, with all Western intelligence, it's showing the same disastrous trend for the Russian military. So yes, these might be a little inflated, but the Ukrainians are saying that 166,000 men fighting for Russia have been killed. This includes DPR, LPR, Wagner mercenaries, Syrians, Chechens, whoever. And then another 499,000 have been wounded, 150,000 currently receiving medical care in hospitals, with another 100,000 Russian men being permanently disabled. These are people who have lost their eyesight, hearing, a limb. It's pretty bad. So Russia is in need of new meat for their human wave attacks. New Russian campaign tries to entice men to fight in Ukraine. So advertisements promise cash bonuses and enticing benefits. Recruiters are making cold calls to eligible men. Enlistment offices are working with universities and social service agencies to lure students and the unemployed. So here's Russia's problem. You can put up a billboard, but if you've got 100,000 amputees wheeling around Russia now, that's an anti-billboard for recruitment. When you can talk to a service veteran who actually served in Ukraine, who's now permanently disabled, the word is getting out. Ukraine is a nightmare. It's a disaster. Don't go there. Of course, Russia can still conscript. They can conscript all day, but they would really like to have motivated volunteers. Another reason why Russia always talks about their nuclear weapons is they're not really getting any help from other major military powers in the world. Russia and China are not creating a military alliance, according to Putin. So here's the quote. "We are not creating any military alliance with China," Putin said on state TV. "Yes, we have cooperation in the sphere of military technical interaction. We are not hiding this. Everything is transparent. Nothing is secret." Do you really think Russia doesn't want a military ally to help them right now? Of course, Putin and the Russians are begging the Chinese for proper military assistance, but China's not giving it to them. In fact, China just rebuked Russia today. Breaking, China is against Russia's plan to deploy nuclear weapons to Belarus. This is a statement from the Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning. "A nuclear war cannot be won or fought. Wars between nuclear weapon states should be avoided and strategic risks should be reduced." But it's not just military, it's also economic that China is screwing Russia. Second Russian pipeline delay sign that China holds the upper hand. So Moscow is confident that the new pipeline, Power of Siberia 2, will move forward, but Beijing has so far avoided making an explicit commitment to the project. So Russia at the moment is pumping a surplus of natural gas that it can't liquefy, it can't ship it in containers. So they need to pipe it somewhere, and they can no longer pipe it to Europe. So Russia is desperate for China to put up some investment money to start building more pipelines from Siberia to East Asia. And at the moment, China's saying, no rush, we've got some other things we're currently working on. Maybe in a couple years, we'll help you out in Moscow. So what are the Chinese up to? And Xi snubbed Putin after their summit, calling a meeting of Central Asian countries as part of an audacious power play. And here's the real workings between Russia and China. So a week after Xi went to Moscow for a photo op in which he gave him nothing, Xi is now calling for further economic, military, and political cooperation with the former Soviet republics, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. This is supposed to be Russia's sphere of influence. These are former Soviet states. Yet China sees the weakness from the Russians, and they're moving in. They're spreading their money around, they're buying politicians probably, they're securing contracts, and they're firmly planting themselves as Central Asia now being their sphere of influence. Good job, Russia. Let's talk about the front lines, and the city of Bakhmut continues to hold. I've been saying this for 4 months now. Russia's incompetent. And it looks like Russia's assault on Bakhmut has largely stalled, according to the UK Defense Ministry. Russia's downshift in Bakhmut results from extreme attrition of the Russian forces and tensions between the regular Russian military and the Wagner Group. So here's a more detailed map showing how they're getting material and rotating troops in and out. And yes, there are these two main roads, but there's also kind of like dirt paths that the Ukrainians can use to once again get material and personnel in and out. But they're not pretty. Check out this video showing one of the back roads that Ukrainians have been using to get in and out of Bakhmut. It's not great, but you do what you gotta do. This is war. For an update in the city, let's get a report from this Ukrainian defender.
7 березня, місто Бахмут. Місто продовжує бути під контролем Збройних сил України. Все буде Україна, а Путін гандон.
Putin is a condom. And for an update just outside of the city, once again, we have Roman. This is his recent report.
Hello, російської країни. So it's Roman again. I'm again in a fight near Bakhmut. So this time from another side, where is the one of the hottest place where the enemy try to surround the city. So we're here in our new position, and so nothing changed. We're preparing food. We watching enemy. We fighting. Nothing changed, and our motivation infinity. That's why we're here. We continue doing what we're supposed to do, and this is who we are.
So Roman says that their motivation remains at infinity. So let's check in with some Russian soldiers, and today we got 2 more videos of Russian soldiers complaining on camera, openly mutinying. The first one, let me just read to you a couple lines. As always, I'll put the full videos in pinned comments down below. So this guy says, due to this, we took very heavy losses. Local DPR officers abandoned their positions, and only the Russian mobilized were remaining. Evacuation of dead and wounded also was not organized. We did it ourselves, leaving positions without cover. There was no delivery of water, food, and ammo. We ate what we brought ourselves, also leaving positions to go get food. There were no comms between units, positions, and the command. Due to mentioned above, we asked the command to sort out this situation. Not looking great for these guys, but it's looking even worse for these guys. This entire clip put out by Dmitry over at War Translated. This is incredible. The entire thing is 7.5 minutes long. Let me read to you the summary of what they say in this video. Russian soldiers from the Storm units, consisting both of convicts and mobilized men, formed by the Russian MOD, published a video revealing that they were purposely sent into slaughter during the assault on Vadyany, while blocking units prevented their retreat. So if Russian soldiers who are ordered to attack try to retreat, they're being shot by their own soldiers. This unit consisted of 161 people initially and only has several dozen men left alive. They claim that soldiers are being taxed, and those who refuse to pay the tax are sent to the 0 line to be put on future assaults. And if they get wounded, they'll be removed from hospitals with unhealed wounds and sent back to attack again if they don't pay this tax. So Russian officers are extorting their own subordinates for money in the middle of a war. This is just who Russia is today. Wow. And do you remember the clip of the T-54 and T-55 tanks being sent to Ukraine from Russia? This went viral. And a reminder, this is the British Challenger 2 tank that Ukraine is currently receiving, and these are the Russian T-54, T-55s built in the 1950s. So this got so much attention even in Russia, Solyov on state TV felt compelled to reply to it. So this is what they have to say.
Тут стали говорить про танки Т-54.
Да, кстати, вот ролик появился в интернете
покажем.
о том, что эшелон танков Т-54, Т-55 движется в каком-то направлении. И, значит, очень неуместные шутки, что будем скоро 34-ки снимать с постаментов. Понадобиться будем. Мы танками на постаментах бронетанковую дивизию сможем укомплектовать. Когда у всех уже все закончится, а у нас еще этот задел. Точно такой же задел Советского Союза наших отцов едет сейчас. И он прикалываться над этим нет смысла.
So they basically are joking about it. He's saying it's not a joke, but then they joke about it, saying that if they run out of T-54 and T-55s, they're going to take T-34s off the podiums at museums and public displays and then form a new brigade out of T-34s. So what is going on with Russia's tank production as they continue to lose hundreds of tanks every month? And the sources for this are at the bottom, but Patricia Marins argues that the three biggest Russian tank factories are all idling due to a lack of electronics. So these are the names of the three factories, and they are working with semi-finished armored vehicles. This is when you can produce the units, the body and the engine and the tracks. But they can't put in the interior equipment, the sensors such as thermals and night sights. They can't get these from Western companies because of sanctions. So when one of these factories produces a new tank, they were only able to do that by cannibalizing a damaged or destroyed tank from somewhere else. So whatever Russia says as far as their production numbers each month, it's a lie. How many brand new, true, real tanks are they producing? And monthly, it's not many. That's why they're resorting to using T-54 and T-55s. And more on the roads in Russia, we're seeing some crazy stuff. Here is a video showing antique trucks used from the 1950s. I'll link this video down below if you want to check it out, but I mean these vehicles, I mean you can tell just from the wheels and the bodies, this is what the Soviets were driving in the 1950s. And this is what their government is handing to their soldiers in the 2020s. And this is just who Russia is. Here is an exclusive report from the New York Post. Putin wanted total cleansing of Ukraine with house-to-house terror, according to leaked FSB documents. So chilling emails from within Russia's FSB intelligence service talk about orders from the very top for civilians to be taken to concentration camps in a bid to conquer Ukraine. Russian bots in the comments section will make the argument that the West needs to stop supporting Ukraine to save Ukraine. Just let Russia have the country so that lives can be saved. But with leaked intelligence such as this, political concentration camps, mass torture chambers, the abduction of children, if Russia had taken control of the capital city of Kyiv, I argue a fate worse than this war was waiting for them if they were once again to be militarily occupied by the Kremlin. Resist at all cost. Let's check in on Maria Lvova-Belova, the international wanted criminal by The Hague. And she's been feeling the heat this last week since finding out that her child abduction program is actually a genocide. And she's now stating that she's willing to return 56 Ukrainian children. And it's important to remember the numbers. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian children have been forced deported to Russia. Most of those children are with their parents being held in filtration camps. But more than 10,000 Ukrainian children have been taken from their parents, or their parents have been killed, and they're being held in political re-education camps to Russify these children and erase their Ukrainian identity. But Maria wants to return 56 to look like she's reasonable when she's hoarding another 9,944 children. So let's now talk about some good news, and there's going to be a new Nordic Air Defense Pact. This is going to combine the forces of hundreds of fighter aircraft. So the countries of Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden are working to combine air defense forces in the face of the Russian threat. So here are the leaders of the 4 air forces getting together and signing a letter of intent to unify their air defense forces. So I think Finland has officially been approved by Turkey to join NATO. It's only a matter of time before Sweden joins as well. So once all 4 countries are in NATO, there's no reason they can't do this. Just unify their airspace and their air defense forces to streamline, training and work schedules. So as an American, I just love to see this kind of cooperation and unity from the Nordic countries. I think it's fantastic in order to protect their borders from the Russians. Additionally, the Ukrainian Air Force is now saying they're going to allow foreigners to be pilots in the armed forces of Ukraine. So up until this point, all the pilots flying missions over Ukraine have been Ukrainian pilots, but there could be a surge in Western aircraft coming into the country, and it might be useful if veterans of some of these forces decided to start flying missions over Ukraine. We'll see if it happens. Another piece of good news, a second group of Ukrainian soldiers have completed their training on the AS-9 howitzers in Britain. So they've graduated their training. The next group is going to rotate in. These soldiers are going to go back to Ukraine, and it looks like they're taking the AS-9 howitzers with them. So on the road leaving the UK, the guns were spotted on the backs of these trucks. So they are making their way to Ukraine as we speak. Fantastic. Here's an interesting poll out of the United States. Lots of people want to know, what do Americans think of this war? And this is a recent CAPS, Harvard, and Harris poll. So here's the question, because wording is always important. Do you support or oppose the United States government supporting Ukraine until Russia pulls all invading forces from its territory or is defeated on the battlefield? So 67% of Americans support Ukraine, support the United States government supporting Ukraine. This is still a supermajority. 67% of Americans agreeing on anything is kind of impressive. And then they ask the follow-up question, is the Biden administration doing too much, too little, or about the right amount to counter Russia's influence and its war in Ukraine? So 41% of, I think, the 67 are saying the Biden administration is doing too little. 36% say the right amount, and 23% say too much. So I'm guessing a lot of people in this 41% would like to see F-16s, ATACMS, and maybe other capabilities. So this polling data is important. I know President Biden pays attention to this stuff, so if it in any way nudges him to maybe send some ATACMS or F-16s, that could happen this year. Final couple clips I have for you. The first one is hilarious. This is some kind of government bureaucrat summoned to the Kremlin to give a report to Putin, and he's not sure how close to Putin he's allowed to get. What a psychotic government. So this guy picks up his chair, starts getting closer. He's afraid he maybe has gotten too close. So Putin signals with his hand, it's okay, you can come a couple meters closer, and then he gives the signal right there. That's good. That's as close as I'm going to allow anyone in my government to get next to me. Insane. Final clip I have for you guys is from Witch. If you've been subscribed to my channel for a couple months, I showed a lot of clips from Witch in December and January when she was stationed inside the city of Bakhmut. In January, she was rotated out and she's not posting on social media as much. But in the comment section, people are always asking me, is Witch okay? What's she doing? And currently, she's with a training unit. My guess is that she's training Ukrainian soldiers that will take part in the spring counteroffensive. And here's a recent video that she put out. It's over 2 minutes. I'll put the full thing in the pinned comments, but let's watch the first minute together.
Hi everyone. Today I will answer frequently asked questions about Ukraine and Ukrainian army. First question. Why Ukraine needs ammunition all the time? Let me explain. We're fighting a huge front line now. Russia has 3 times more ammunition, artillery systems, and exerts great pressure with fire. We count every piece of ammunition. We have no right to make a mistake. For example, on 12 Russian shots, we can answer only 4, and these 4 must be very accurate. Second question, why do you need so many drones? The answer is very simple. Russians have a large number of different radars and radio electronic intelligence systems. To control the situation and manage the fights, we use drones. Our programmers also created software to bypass Russian radio electronic traps. So, drones are our eyes.
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up, best way to support my channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.